Hello and welcome to Continental Prime, reaching you from Lagos, Nigeria. My name is Felicity Eziwike, and these are the headlines at this hour. Military plane crashes in Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria. Police say at least 3 people have been killed in a roadside blast on the outskirts of Somali's capital, Mogadishu. Uganda starts the second phase of COVID-19 vaccination. I'll bring you details shortly. We begin the news in Nigeria with reports that a military plane has crashed in Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria on Friday. Reports say the training aircraft crashed on the runway of the Kaduna International Airport. The incident occurred during a heavy downpour. The plane crash landed on the runway, killing all 8 people on board, including Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Atahiru. Joining us live now to look at this development is a security analyst, Kabiru Adamu. Thank you very much for joining us on the news.
Thank you. Good evening.
A very good evening to you. Let's just ask the implication of the death of the Chief of Army Staff.
As the highest ranking officer in the Nigerian Army unit, if this information is confirmed that he fled, it would definitely have a significant impact on the focus, the operational focus of the Nigerian Army, as well as his general outlook. He was appointed not too long ago, and immediately after his appointment, one of the first things he did was to change the operational command, as well as the focus of the operations in the northeast, from Operation Lafia Duli to Operation, that would definitely have an impact. It's not very likely that if someone else takes over from him, that he would continue along the lines of what he has started. And so definitely this would be a huge impact. And then given that if this is confirmed, it happened, accidentally. There was no time to do a handover note, nothing. So definitely it would have a huge impact. And then technically, Nigeria is at war, even though we're not using that term, but several fronts of that war, unfortunately. So given this circumstance and then losing the highest ranking army officer would definitely have a consequence in terms of the morale, the outlook, and the strategy of the Nigerian army.
Just to extend your thoughts on this, what is the implication, especially for the fight against insurgency? We know that Shekau has been killed, coming up from, even though the military is yet to fully confirm that, what is the implication for the fight against insecurity and insurgency?
We have to be mindful of the peculiarities of the Nigerian state, where the military has played a huge role, or it's actually playing a huge role in internal security. It's been argued that out of the 36 states in Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory, the military is deployed in 34 of such these states, as well as the federal capital. And to have such a situation where the military is playing significant role in both internal security and other aspects of security, and then all of a sudden, the highest ranking person within that structure dies, definitely it would have a huge impact on both the participation of the military in internal security, as well as the aspects of insurgency in the northeast. Now, irrespective of whether the information surrounding the death of Shekau is confirmed or not, this type of propaganda, this type of information that's flying around is used by either side for propaganda purposes. So, of course, the death of Shekau could be used by the Nigerian military, but then immediately after the news of the death of Shekau, we're now having the death of the Chief of Army Staff. I mean, for all you know, the insurgents would argue that it's their prayer or, whatever internal mechanisms they've been using in the past that led to that death. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. That is what their members and followers would listen to. So unfortunately, it provides another layer of opportunity for the insurgents to continue with their propaganda, and except if that is taken away from them in terms of a full-blown investigation that would show in a transparent manner what actually happened. And then that way we would have taken that opportunity away from them.
Let's talk about the investigation. How soon do you think we will know exactly what could have caused this crash? Because there are murmurs around the corner that we've had quite a number of plane crashes in recent weeks. Some are alleging that there is more to this than meets the eye. Of what impact will a quick investigation have on that? And do you subscribe to the school of thought that there might be more to this than really we can see?
Fortunately, I'm not an advocate or student of conspiracy theories. I know they are important sometimes when you're doing your analysis, you take count of them. But when it comes to the real stuff that we do, conspiracy theories are kept for what they are, conspiracy theories. Now, an investigation is key in this type of circumstances. First off, because, he's the number one person that is leading the army. He's the appointed person that Mr. President has appointed to spearhead the activities of the Nigerian army. Now, anyone who wants to sabotage the effort of the Nigerian army and goes after him successfully will definitely have succeeded. So to remove that possibility and to, more importantly, reduce any conspiracy theories around his death, it's absolutely important that an investigation is launched and that it's done in a transparent manner and that the results are made public. Unfortunately, as a country, we do not have that tradition. Now, this is the third time in 2021 alone that we're seeing an accident or whatever circumstances surrounding the downing of military airplanes. The first one was in Abuja, I think it was in January, and then more recently in the Northeast when a fighter jet also crashed, and circumstances of which were yet to be told. And then, of course, this one. Now, irrespective of what the reasons are, the fact is that it's pointing to a one key element, which is the safety and the conditions of the assets within the Nigerian military, both the Air Force as well as the Nigerian Army. And this, unfortunately, is not helpful to a situation where we're at war, as it were. So it's absolutely important that the circumstances around this crashes, this downing of these airplanes, are explored, and that whatever the vulnerabilities that led to the development are blocked, so that the morale of the soldiers or whoever it is that is involved in flying these planes kept at the highest level, because it's only at that point that you will be able to carry out the campaign in a manner that it went. And then on the other hand, an investigation that is done transparently would also help reduce the kind of conspiracy theories as well as the propaganda that the other side can use regarding the accident or the downing, whatever the circumstances is at the moment.
All right, Kabir Adamu, thank you very much for joining us on such short notice. I'm very sure we'll circle back to you in the coming days. Thank you again.
Thank you, and stay safe.
You too. All right, we head now to South Africa, where it appears the last is yet to be heard of the alleged corruption, financial misappropriation and state capture being investigated by the Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo Commission of Inquiry, as another witness showed up at the inquiry just as it enters day 400. News Centre's Mary Chinda, who monitored the proceedings on Friday, tells us more.
It was a heated Friday morning at the South African Judicial Commission of Inquiry into state capture, corruption and fraud in the public sector. The inquiry, also known as the Zondo Commission, which had received over 278 witnesses and collected 159,109 pages of evidences after it was launched by the government of former President Jacob Zuma in January 2018, today continued to hear Gupta-related evidence from the estranged wife of former Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba over the alleged involvement in financial misappropriation involving former President Jacob Zuma and the Gupta brothers.
Days later, Malusi had a meeting with Siyabonga, and then he came back he told me that Siyabonga was going to go pick up the half of the money. He will meet with the sister. Then you will help the sister to remove her name. I think 2 weeks later, I asked him, how's that process going? So then Malusi told me that like the process of removing someone from credit bureau is not an easy process, but Siyabonga knows how to assist, so he will assist the sister. So then he would go fetch the half, and then he would do the payment and assist the sister with all the process, which I don't know how the process is of credit bureau because I've never been on credit bureau. And at that time, the sister was not working.
The accusations brought against Malusi's estranged wife is that her confessions brought before the commission are politically motivated. This she denies.
I didn't do that, and that's a lie that I said to him there were people on the top 6. The first time I heard that, it was from him before even the arrest. Malusi said someone from the top 6 leaked the video. He was told by someone else in the top 6 that in the meeting of top 6, someone was pushing the president to make him resign. So that's not the only time I had the discussion about the top 6.
After much examination, the commission's chair adjourns for further hearing. One thing that is clear is that the final findings of the Zonda Commission will help nail corrupt political office holders in South Africa. Mary Chinda reporting for News Central.
Thank you very much, Mary. It's been an eventful 24 hours at South Africa's Judicial Commission into state capture. On Thursday, the commission was abruptly adjourned following a security threat. The adjournment came shortly after Noma Ngoma, former wife of ex-cabinet minister Malusi Gigaba, took the stand and spilled so much beans on her ex-husband's engagement with the controversial India Gupta family, who are believed to be at the center of the state capture allegations. Now, Ngoma was swiftly spirited away under heavy police guard. The commission has refused to comment on the security threat, but local media have reported 2 unmarked cars were kept crawling the premises of the commission. On Friday, Gigaba himself took to the stand to defend his relationship with the Gupta family. Joining us this evening is Ongama Timka, a political analyst. Thank you very much for joining us on the news.
Good evening, Felicity. Thank you for having me this evening.
It's our pleasure. Now, the commission is in its 400th day and is drawing to a close. There seems to be a very intense political climate operating under. That's what they are. What do you make of last night's security threat?
Well, what it shows is that those that want to intimidate legal, judicial, and quasi-judicial processes.
Okay, the network is okay. Go ahead. The network froze for a bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, they don't like the fact that these are proceeding, and if it was according to them, this commission would not be held. It would be subdued through political stalemates, and accountability would not be had. But unfortunately,
okay, let's see if we can reconnect with Mr. Timka in a bit. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, go ahead with your thought.
Is officially behind the process that's happening at the State Capture Commission, and the president campaigned on a clean governance ticket. So this process will be backed up, notwithstanding the intimidation that those with vested interests in unaccountability continue to intimidate the commission.
What does this say, really? What are people saying this has to do with the level of the rule of law in South Africa?
Well, that it is being challenged, that governance which is premised on rules and accountability is being challenged.
Okay, I'm afraid we might need to hold off on the conversation because network keeps interrupting. Let's just try one more time. Could you just wrap up your thoughts in about 40 seconds, if you can?
It does mean that the rule of law is being challenged, but it's assertive enough and resilient enough to be able to, ensure that judicial or quasi-judicial processes continue, notwithstanding the intimidation that they're getting. South Africa is getting stronger and stronger when it comes to holding political elites accountable to South Africa, even if it takes.
Okay, I'll just have to say thank you very much, Mr. Ngama Tinka, for joining us on the news. The network has been pretty unfriendly. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Felicity.
All right, we continue with other stories. Staying in South Africa, princesses in the Zulu royal family have gone to court in an attempt to halt the coronation of Prince Misuzulu as Amazulu king. Princesses Ntadoyi Kosi and Ntombizo Sutu have applied for an urgent interdict at the High Court. In court papers filed on Friday, the two princesses say the coronation should be halted until the concerns that they have raised about their father's will have been adequately dealt with. The two are challenging the will of King Goodwill Zwelithini and say the coronation cannot be allowed to proceed until the issue of the validity of the will is resolved. We move to East Africa. All is set for the parts to resolve the political impasse on elections in the Federal Republic of Somalia. This follows the arrival of all the presidents of the federal member states ahead of the long-awaited Leadership Consultative Summit in Mogadishu. The plans for elections got a sigh of relief after the cancellation of the two-year period by Parliament to change gears from one person, one vote to indirect elections. To discuss this, we are now joined by Ibrahim Hussein, a foreign policy and political analyst. He's based in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about good evening from Lagos. This brings a lot of hope for the people of Somalia, doesn't it?
Indeed. This brings a lot of hope for the people in Somalia and for the great Horn of Africa in general. This is because of the political instability we have in Somalia and the arrival of all the federal member state leaders in Mogadishu is welcome, and it brings great hope to get good leadership and good forefront in the next election to come.
Talk to us about the meeting for the indirect elections and who is set to determine the fate of Somalia.
Well, as we all know, the electoral process in Somalia is kind of different from the other African nations. In Somalia, we have the communities and the clans who normally elect the legislatures, the MPs, and the senators. And in return, the senators and the MPs elect the president. Well, the fate of Somalia is always held by the people. And we are very much optimistic that with this process and with these negotiations, elections are going to be held swiftly, and we are going to have the election process going on as planned.
We understand that the president has handed over the leadership role for the elections to the prime minister. What does this mean, really?
Well, the matter of handing over the election negotiations to the Prime Minister Roble has been welcomed well by all parties and by the international communities. This is because after he talked to the parliament in general, he announced that he's going to hand over the negotiation process to the Prime Minister. However, this has not changed any structural development and policies in the government. The structure in the government is still working with the president at his head. It's just a matter of deliberating roles and responsibilities to the Prime Minister Roble to initiate and negotiate the electoral processes.
Okay, we understand that the AU appointed envoy, that's John Dramani, has resigned from his mediation role. Can you tell us about the mood of the people to this and basically the hopes in general that the process will go as planned and smoothly too?
Well, definitely, the process will go well as planned. And this has been welcomed well. We all know that the President Farmajo recently paid a visit to the President of the African Union, President Tshisekedi, to discuss more on this electoral process and instability in Somalia. However, former President of Ghana was deliberated the role to become a mediator in this process. And after the President Farmajo talked to the Parliament, there was no need to have a mediator. And that's why former President Dramani gave an official resignation letter on his social media account to show that this is a Somali-led process and it will only need Somali intervention to get a clear passage.
Ibrahim Hussein, thank you very much for joining us on the news.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, staying in Somalia, police and witnesses say at least 3 people were killed on Friday in a roadside blast in the Garazbali neighborhood on the outskirts of the capital, Mogadishu. An officer says a bomb planted at the roadside went off as a convoy carrying Abdurrahman Ahmed Ali, the commissioner of Garazbali, was passing by. The officer says the commissioner and 2 of his bodyguards died in the blast. Witnesses say they heard a heavy blast. No group has claimed responsibility for the latest attack. Coming up, Uganda begins second phase of COVID-19 vaccination. We'll bring you details of this and much more when we return. Just stay with us. It has been a whole afternoon of tributes here in West Africa, where Nigeria's Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, has described media practitioners as the conscience of the nation who must not compromise their ethics. He made the remarks on Friday at an event tagged An Afternoon of Tributes in honor of fallen media giants across the country. The event was organized by Nigerian Press Organization, which consists of Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, Nigeria Guild of Editors, Nigeria Union of Journalists, and the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria in honor of media heroes who died last year. News Centro's Ijoma Esekalaye's report has the details.
It was an afternoon of tributes as veteran journalists gathered in the most populous nation in Africa, Nigeria, to honor their fallen colleagues. The Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who delivered the keynote address, urged media owners to fight against fake news and work towards the nation building to avoid anarchy.
I would suggest that those of us that stand as gatekeepers in the fourth estate must demonstrate a greater awareness of the sensibilities and sensitivities of our society. Debates over our country's future will always be intense and passionate, but they need not be toxic or polarizing. The media can help to promote a climate of civility in which even the most contentious national issues can be discussed in full and frank terms without degenerating into chaos.
Stakeholders at the event described the fallen heroes as bridge builders whom have contributed immensely to the development of the nation and left big vacuum behind that cannot be filled by anyone.
In the past 15 months or so, we have counted 9 media titans who have passed on. I think we have done our own mourning in private. It is time that we remember them and celebrate them in public.
Impacted positively on the Nigerian media industry. They are all worth celebrating. They left us at the time the industry is facing serious challenges. I believe that their legacies will inspire us to overcome all these challenges.
We decided for once to celebrate ourselves. We, the media, usually spend a lot of time celebrating others, eulogizing other professionals and professions. And this is a very great landmark in the history of the media in this country for this great honor that we have done today.
Those honored include a former governor of Lagos State and pioneer NGE and NPAN president Alhaji Lateef Jakande, former Minister of Information and Culture and ex-president of the Secretary General of NGE, Prince Tony Momo, and life patron NPAN Malam Ismail Issa. Other media leaders honored are former Director General of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, FRCN, and Executive Director, Voice of Nigeria, VON, Mr. Ben Egbuna. Late publisher, Leadership Newspaper, Mr. Sam Nda Isaiah, as well as ex-publisher, New Nation, and former editor, Sunday Times, Mr. Gbolagbo Ogunsowo. These icons will definitely be remembered for their contribution in shaping Nigeria media world.
Uganda on Friday started the second phase of COVID-19 vaccination in the East African country. The country's Health Minister Ruth Aceng, Foreign Minister Sam Kutesa, and the World Health Organization representative in Uganda, Jonas Wolde Mariam, received their second shot of AstraZeneca vaccine in Kampala. The Ministry of Health advised all those who received their first dose and have completed 8 weeks to visit the nearest vaccination facility for their second. Aceng, after getting her second jab, said the vaccine is safe and effective. On March 10, Uganda launched the first phase of vaccination targeting high-risk groups, including health workers, social workers, the elderly, and those with underlying medical conditions.
Right now, I want to tell Uganda that the situation is not good. The number of cases are increasing daily. The resurgence is true, it is real. Our isolation facility, especially the intensive care unit at Mulago, is already full. If you are eligible for a bed right now, you may go on a waiting list. So my appeal to you is to take COVID-19 very seriously and to take this resurgence as more dangerous than the first. If people are not careful, we may end up losing many more people than we did before. Because apparently Ugandans seem to have forgotten that we have COVID-19 and people are back to their normal life. People don't want to wear masks. People don't want to sanitize. They don't want to social distance. And COVID-19 is affecting everyone, even the children. We have children in our isolation facility. So my humble appeal to you is to take this issue very seriously and protect yourself. The standard operating procedures work, and they work very well. And if you are eligible for vaccines, please go get the jab.
The Central African Republic, one of the last countries in the world to receive COVID-19 vaccines, has finally launched its immunization campaign. It has received 60,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine thanks to the COVAX initiative. In the meantime, authorities began the inoculation of its risk population, such as health workers, the elderly, and people with pre-existing conditions. The Central African Republic Prime Minister was the first to receive the jab. A second shipment of vaccines is expected to arrive to help further immunize the 6 million citizens of the Central African Republic. But until then, health authorities say it will have to deal with the limited amount of resources at their disposal. Still ahead, a ceasefire between Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas in the Gaza Strip comes into effect. We'll bring you details and much more after the break. A ceasefire between Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas in the Gaza Strip has come into effect. The ceasefire began early on Friday, bringing to an end 11 days of horror in which more than 250 people were killed, most of them children, in Gaza. Both Israel and Hamas claimed victory in the conflict. The truce faced an early test on Friday when fresh clashes broke out at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in occupied East Jerusalem. In the meantime, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has welcomed the ceasefire between Gaza and Israel after days of deadly hostilities, extending his deepest condolences to the victims of the violence and their loved ones.
I welcome the ceasefire between Gaza and Israel after 11 days of deadly hostilities. I extend my deepest condolences to the victims of the violence and their loved ones. I commend Egypt and Qatar for the efforts carried out in close coordination with the UN to help restore calm to Gaza and Israel, and I call on all sides to observe the ceasefire. I appeal to the international community to work with the United Nations on developing an integrated, robust package of support for a swift, sustainable reconstruction and recovery that supports the Palestinian people and strengthens their institutions. I stress that Israeli and Palestinian leaders have a responsibility beyond the restoration of calm to start a serious dialogue to address the root causes of the conflict. Gaza is an integral part of the future Palestinian state, and no effort should be spared to bring about real national reconciliation that ends the division. I underscore the United Nations' deep commitment to working with Israelis and Palestinians and with our international and regional partners, including through the Middle East Quartet, to return to the path of meaningful negotiations to end the occupation and allow for the realization of a two-state solution on the basis of the 67 lines, UN resolutions, international law, and mutual agreements. Thank you very much.
A new deep-water port at the Kenyan island of Lamu has welcomed its first ships, launching a potential trade corridor for neighboring countries despite local opposition. The $3 billion Lamu port is part of an ambitious $23 billion regional transport corridor known as LAPSAT. The transport corridor is expected to ease the flow of goods between Kenya and its two northern landlocked neighbors, while easing congestion at Mombasa, East Africa's busiest port, further to the south. Meanwhile, from the start, the 23-bed port has faced opposition from local businessmen who depend heavily on tourism and fishing, as well as from environmental groups. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta presided over the commissioning ceremony.
Officially operationalizing berth number 1, and this means that we can start receiving ships and cargo at this port, and by July, berth number 2 will be ready, and by October of this year, the last berth, which is berth number 3, shall also be operational.
For the rest of the business news, we now go to Tolulokpe Adeleru Balogun.
Welcome to Business on NC Continental Prime. I'm Tolulokpe Adeleru Balogun. The flow of remittances to Morocco rose to 6.5% in 2020, according to World Bank statistics. The new data shows that remittance flows to Morocco took a large share of the total increase in remittances directed to the Middle East and North Africa region last year. According to the new data, the flows to the region rose by 2.3% to $56 billion in 2020. Money transfers to Morocco from Moroccans abroad registered an increase of 6.5%. Remittances to Tunisia also recorded an increase of 2.5%. On the flip side, in the same region, several countries experienced declines in remittances, including Djibouti, Lebanon, Iraq, and Jordan. Africa is in line to get at least $250 billion of financial assistance without interest from international lenders. This is one of the major agreements reached at the summit on financing African economies held in Paris, France this week. This week's Rebound has the details of this and other stories on economic and financial recovery on the continent.
The World Bank has invested $200 billion in Africa over the past decade and intends to invest and mobilize another $150 billion to support the continent's development with a large portion of grants and long-term zero-interest rate loans from the International Development Agency, IDA, according to the World Bank President, David Malpass, on the sidelines of the Paris Summit on the financing of African economies that concluded on Tuesday. He added that Africa needs large inflows of long-term resources in order to address the challenges created by the pandemic. Malpass also said that he discussed with French President Emmanuel Macron a number of initiatives that aim to support the continent, including closing the infrastructure gap and improving access to low-carbon electricity, as well as a proposal of a 3-year pilot for a user-friendly blended finance facility. Kenya will receive about $410 million from the International Monetary Fund once a review of its financing program is completed by the International Lenders Executive Board in the coming weeks. The disbursement is part of the $2.34 billion finance package that the fund is extending to the country in April this year to help the country deal with the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and address the debt problem. Salam African Bank, the leading bank by branch network in Djibouti, has acquired 100% ownership in Kenya's Uwezo Microfinance Bank, giving the lender a presence in Kenya's banking industry. The acquisition took effect on March 25, 2021, after obtaining approval from the Central Bank of Kenya and the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Planning. Microfinance institutions are key drivers of the Kenyan economy as they provide financing to micro, small and medium-sized businesses who form nearly 85% of all enterprises in the country. South African Reserve Bank SAB Governor Laseja Kyanyago has announced the repo rate will stay at 3.5% on Thursday, following the conclusion of the bank's May Monetary Policy Committee meeting. The decision is in line with expectations of most economists and market commentators, despite the higher-than-expected consumer price inflation CPI figure for April, which came out on Wednesday.
Bitcoin is hovering around $40,000 on Friday as the premier cryptocurrency attempts to recover from this week's massive plunge. Bitcoin charged up earlier at $40,256 on the Bitstamp exchange. That's roughly 30% above Wednesday's low. But this is far below its 200-day moving average. Rival cryptocurrency Ether also came under pressure, falling 1% to $2,745. The U.S. Treasury Department on Thursday called for new rules that would require large cryptocurrency transfers to be reported to the Internal Revenue Service, and the Federal Reserve has flagged the risk cryptocurrencies posed to financial stability. Those warnings came after Chinese financial industry bodies were banned from using cryptocurrencies in payment and settlement earlier in the week. And that's it on business right here on NC Continental Prime. I'm Tolulokwe Adileru Balogun. There's more news coming up.
Certainly more news. Moving away from business, we go to trending issues on social media. And tonight, Sheung Bankole of our digital team has more.
Africa. But just before we get into that weekend mood, here are the latest social media trends from around the continent and some reactions from the Twitter family. Welcome to NC Trends. I am Shion Bankole. Now, IMEI has been trending all day in Nigeria, but as expected, this new policy did not go down well with Nigerians. Let us take a look at some of their comments online. Olawale Ebensi begins and says, is Issa Pantami sure he won't be needing our phone's password and probably our email password as well? IMEI won't be enough, oh. I mean. All right, moving on. Bola Kale Babatunde says, submitting the IMEI of my phone to Pantami, NCC, or even the federal government of Nigeria is one thing I will never do. I would rather not use a phone than be monitored. Will you rather use a phone and be monitored, or you won't even use a phone at all? Let's know what you think. Okay, Gabovi says, trust me, this is to track people's social media and mostly Twitter. Since NSAS, they have been looking for means to track citizens. They tried with NIN and it was not possible. There's 105 out of 100% chance to track and monitor someone with IMEI number. Me, myself can do it. I myself can do it. All right, moving away from that, let's now move to South Africa, where South African sweeps are reacting to rapper AKA's decision to have a tell-all interview tomorrow, 22nd May, concerning the death of his late fiancée. There are reports that Anele Tembe, who died on Sunday, April 11, after she fell from the 10th floor of a Cape Town hotel, had suffered emotional abuse from her rapper boyfriend, and that allegedly triggered her to take her life. While some people think it's a brave move to address the circumstances surrounding her death, others think it's too soon for the rapper to speak out, as he might incriminate himself in the process. Let's check some reactions to the trending hashtag, aka Kulume. Umbo Jr. starts and says, too soon. There's so many legal questions in his case and might even self-incriminate in the whole thing, as his advisor would have written a script for him or tell him not to do any interviews until cleared by the police. It might not end well for him. Do you agree with that, though? All right, Radiate Royalty says, I honestly don't know what happened, but the way the narrative changed to AKA being the monster, abuser, and the killer so quick. The trolling, you can tell that some people are not looking for justice, but his downfall. I hope he can clear his name and the lady can finally rest in peace. Okay, finally on that, Stabo Makaota says, you really think you will get the answers you want from an interview with pre-screened questions? Really? There are always three sides to a story. Nelly's side, AKA side, and the truth. Tomorrow you'll get AKA side only. I'm not moved. Ugh. I'm a bit moved. All right, we'll wrap NC Trends up in Ethiopia, where citizens are using hashtag USA Stop Interfering to demand that the United States stops its intervention in their internal issues. The people of the Horn of Africa country insist that they are independent enough to handle their own issues and can do very well without the United States media and charity. Let's check some reactions online. Kirubel Must Find tweeted, Ethiopia is the capital of Africa. USA should know this so well and should not lose any chances with its beautiful future with Prime Minister Abiy and Ethiopians. Any mistake on Ethiopia will be Africa's mess and the world's mess. Hashtag stand for Ethiopian unity. Moving away from that, Bistrat says, our culture, ethics, and custom is solution for our problem. We don't need your media, policy, program, and charity. Hashtag stand for Ethiopian unity. Hashtag USA stop interfering. Finally on that, Viro Bekuma says, if US willingly supported Ethiopia, it's going to be a win-win situation. By supporting Ethiopia, Eastern Africa's peace and stability will be maintained, and on top of that, poverty reduction will be ensured for Ethiopians. Hashtag stand for Ethiopian unity. Hashtag USA stop interfering. Now that's all for tonight. Don't forget to tweet at News Central TV with the hashtag NC Trends to weigh in on any of the trending topics. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.
Certainly a lot to take in that's trending on social media. Moving on, in sports tonight, Ulinzi Starlets will be looking to climb to the summit of Football Kenya Federation, Women's Premier League Zone A. Udoka Njoka has the rest. Udoka, how are you?
I'm very well. And talking about the Ulinzi Starlets, they will be looking to climb to the summit of the Football Kenya Federation Women's Premier League Zone A when they take on Matara United at Camp Toyoyo grounds. Now, the Women's Premier League is returning after a month-long break following the government's ban on sporting activities on the 26th of March All matches will be played behind closed doors as per the COVID-19 resumption protocols released by the Ministries of Health and Sports. Now, the Soldiers, who are second in Zone A with 21 points, 9 behind leaders Thika Queens, will start as favourites against bottom-place Mathare United, who have 4 points. Unbeaten Thika Queens will face off with 7th-placed Makolanders, who have 8 points. Moving over to rugby, Israel Folau signed up to play for a second-tier Australian Rugby League team in his latest bid to end the sporting exile sparked by his homophobic social media posts. Now, the former rugby union international told the press conference that he planned to start playing next week for the Southport Tigers, a small Queensland team, but his registration as a player has yet to be approved by the Queensland Rugby League. The 32-year-old was sacked by Rugby Australia in May 2019 for a homophobic social media post, and Israel Folau was unrepentant about his past statements. Folau is set to play alongside his 2 brothers for the Gold Coast-based Southport Tigers. Queensland Rugby League said it was still considering his application for registration, and he was a star National Rugby League player early in his career, then switched to rugby union after an unsuccessful stint playing Australian rules. And in football now, Sergio Aguero has agreed to sign for Barcelona on a 2-year contract when his Manchester City deal expires next month. Now, the striker's preference was to move to the new camp, and he has accepted a lower salary than was available elsewhere. But then he will receive a bonus if the team wins the Champions League. Aguero, who will be 33 next season, has been troubled during this campaign by injuries, which have restricted him to just 18 appearances and 4 goals. And he hopes to make a farewell Etihad Stadium appearance against Everton on Sunday and to play in the Champions League final in the following Saturday. For Barcelona, they are also closing in on signing the former Manchester United forward Memphis Depay, whose contract at Lyon expires this summer. And Depay has confirmed to his lawyers that he wants to join the Spanish club. And on Friday, Pep Guardiola paid tribute to Aguero, who is leaving City as their record goal scorer. And Aguero played in Spain for Atletico Madrid before moving to the Premier League club 10 years ago. From there, let's go straight to the Europa League final, where Manchester United captain Harry Maguire is unlikely to be fit for next week's final against Villarreal. And this was announced by the manager, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The 28-year-old central defender is making progress in recovering from an ankle injury he suffered against Aston Villa earlier this month and was pictured walking without crutches on Thursday. However, Solskjaer was downbeat about his chances of being fit for the match against the Spanish side in the Polish city of Gdansk on Wednesday. And United's defense has looked shaky in Maguire's absence, and they have lost 2 and drawn 1 of their past 3 Premier League games. Solskjaer expects the England international to play an important role off the field, even if, as expected, he does not make it to the final. And that's a wrap on the sports update. I hand over to Felicity Ezewike.
Of course, we have Sam Dandy taking us through the world of entertainment.
Thank you very much, and now to entertainment news. Over the years, organizations like Forbes have annually ranked the world's wealthiest people. Recently, a list compiled by Forbes has ranked the top 30 African musicians. I have more in this report.
Just a few days ago, a list believed to be compiled by Forbes magazines ranked 30 of the richest African musicians. While some of the artists went ahead to express gratitude for the acknowledgement, Diamond Platinums rather had some strong thoughts, but here's the top 10 on the list. Senegalese singer, songwriter and composer Youssou N'Dour ranked at number 1 with a net worth of $145 million. In 2004, Rolling Stones magazines described him as perhaps the most famous singer alive in Senegal and much of Africa. From April 2012 to September 2013, he was Senegal's Minister of Tourism and till today has many international awards to his name. Forbes ranked Senegalese American singer Akon as second on that list with a net worth of $80 million. He rose to prominence in 2004 following the release of Locked Up, Trouble and Lonely. With 6 widely accepted studio albums, 2 successful record label establishments, 36 wins, and 95 nominations, Akon has a Guinness World Record and has over 30 songs certified platinum and gold in the United States. South Africa's Innocent Mafumulo, better known as Black Coffee, is a DJ, record producer, singer, and songwriter. DJ Black Coffee ranks at 3rd with a net worth of $60 million and a total of 9 studio albums released till date since he started his career in 1994. West Africa makes the list in 4th place as Nigeria's Wizkid tops with $21 million net worth. The most decorated Nigerian artist ever. The 30-year-old who was honored at this year's 63rd Grammy Awards for his contribution to a foreign body of work also became the first African artist to be certified gold, both as a featured and lead artist in the United States. Nigeria still holds it down at the 5th place on the list, with OBO himself, Davido, ranked by Forbes to be worth $20 million. The 28-year-old, who recently celebrated 10 years in the music industry, boasts many international awards and collaborations, including a cameo appearance in the highly acclaimed remake of Coming to America. It's rather interesting that the 4th to 14th place on the recently released list are Nigerians, from Wizkid to Davido to Maven's record boss Don Jazzy, Grammy Award-winning Burna Boy, 45-year-old Two-Face Idibia, Rude Boy of the famous duo P-Square, and then Timaya. The first female on that list, 41 years old, Kenyan musician Akote, who ranked 15 as she seemed rather elated to be recognized by the organization. Despite the list going viral, a number of fans and artists themselves have dismissed it, stating the figures quoted by the publications are wrong, one of which was Diamond Platnumz, the Tanzanian singer who in the past few days signed a record deal with Warner Music worth $5 million. He was ranked at number 28 on the list, worth a net worth of $5.1 million. And the multi-award winning artist took to social media to say, Forbes, next time Google me to know what I'm really worth of before putting me on your stupid richest African musicians list. Whether we can validate the authenticity of this list by Forbes, one thing is certain, these artists are putting work and continue to shine the richness of the African sound to the entire world.
Nigerians are definitely making us proud, but all in all, this is a validation of the richness of the African sound. Well, that's all entertainment news. I am Sam Dandy.
Well, every list will always have controversy trailing it. Thank you, Sam Daddy. For more weather update across Africa, we go to our Met desk. That's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, here's a recap of our top stories. A military plane has crashed in Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria, killing all 8 people on board, including Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru. Police say at least 3 people have been killed in a Friday roadside blast on the outskirts of Somalia's capital, Mogadishu. We also told you that Uganda has started the second phase of COVID-19 vaccination. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store. You can also watch us News Central Live on Star Times Channel 274, Avo TV Channel 23, and on YouTube. My name is Felicity Ezinike, thanking you as always for your time.